Welcome to another conversation with the candidates. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for this segment. Whether you know it or not, right around the corner is Election Day, the town elections in both Whitman and Hanson, May 20th, a Saturday, usually the third Saturday of the month. Just a quick public service announcement. If you're not sure if you are eligible to vote, where you should vote, early voting, any of that, contact the town clerk's office. They'll be happy to give you all that information as you need it. Today, we are speaking with a candidate who is running for Board of Selectmen, one of 4 on the ballot this year in Whitman. We have Laura Howe who is joining us. Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Let's start out. I'm sure many folks know who you are. You've been in town for many years. But for those who don't know, who might be new to town, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Laura Howe, and I was born and raised here. My grandfather was Ronley Jenkins, and people may know Jenkins Block as the center of town, and that was my grandfather's family. So I have a lot of pride in this town. My husband and I have been together 33 years, and we have 3 children, 32, 30 this year in November. Joshua will be, and 13, our daughter, and 3 grandchildren, 12 and under. And we coached Little League. I helped my husband. He coached and did a lot of things in this town with our boys growing up. And I love this town with all my heart and soul. I do animal control. I have for 6 years. And it's just, to me, the biggest joy that I get in my life is helping people. And in this community, they're being grown up in this community, it just seems a fitting place.
What made you decide to run for the Board of Selectmen?
Well, I've seen a lot of things over my 56 years of life, and some of them I agree with, and others I think we could improve. And there's a lot of dissatisfaction that I have with some things, and I'd like to be a voice for people with similar dissatisfactions. This community is so unique. It has a lot of roots to me, but there are a lot of new people coming in, and I would love to see more diversity, and I would love to see more people joining up and coming to town meeting. And I really would like to be a voice for those people and welcome them to come and then to run. And I really like to see more people at our town meetings than 150 and calling for them at last minute on Facebook and such.
So, what do you understand is the role of a select person?
Well, I think it's a huge role. I think it's a very important role, and I think that it gets overlooked. But I think that once you're in that position, what also sadly gets overlooked is the importance of the constituents that put you there. We do a lot of things without taking into account everybody, and everybody needs to be put in, the community. We don't have a community with one side or the other. Division is absolutely what breaks a community. I feel that the budget is huge. It's running a town budget and overseeing those things, and we have the finance committee and all that, but there's a lot of departments that aren't really working together, and I'd love to see the selectmen as a role should be bringing people together, and sometimes they do, but I would really like to see more of that, and I would really like to be on the select board as a person that is willing to compromise. I have never had a problem with agreeing to disagree, and I'd like to see more perspectives taken in. And the board itself, they make a lot of important decisions and such, but they really don't do it solely alone. They're, all of the department heads and everybody come together to the Board of Selectmen. I just would like to see it be a little bit more open to the people and for more conversation.
Okay. Is there an issue or a set of issues at the heart of this year's town election?
Well, we have several issues that it's hard for someone, any one of the four of us running, well, maybe the two that are already running had a part, but it's hard to come in as, Monday morning quarterback type thing. There's the DPW building, the school. There's a lot of issues at hand right now, even prior to the election for selectmen. And all of these are huge issues. We've been kind of kicking the can down the road for a long time. Whitman and Hanson have the lowest tax rates, and that's good in a way. It's provided people to keep monies in their pocket, but we haven't put aside. And if we don't take advantage of some of these opportunities, we may lose huge opportunities, such as 50%, being paid, by the state for the school. Or, when we pay off the high school, we have an opportunity for more money to be available. And the DPW has been an old building for a long time. And, look at the police station that when then she was the chief, Christine Mays, she worked so hard on that. And it's a green building. And it supports like a lot of our wasted money. You don't think about it, but you do in your own home. You should in a town. Goes wasted, heat out the window and such like that. So with green buildings, we can do savings, and it's not as costly as it's projected sometimes. And I feel badly that we're always in this state of anger at departments at each other, or the town at the residents at the town. I really like to see people come together more and have more conversation about what we need as a town.
Okay. You mentioned the budget and tight times or tough fiscal times. Talk to me about the fiscal 24 budget. Some of your concerns about the budget season that we're in the midst of, and of course the new fiscal year starting on July 1st.
Well, we're in a really strange world since COVID and the pandemic. And sadly, the dollar, it's not what it was when we spoke in 2017. The world is not what it was when we spoke in 2017. And that's why community is that much more important, because the suicide rates have also gone way up, and our children are getting lost. And this isn't about the schools versus the DPW. This is plain and simple about community. And if we don't really start approaching things between the budget and keeping it so that we can afford things, like brick and mortar does not teach children. We need to have good teachers in there. I also wish we would have the arts and things like woodworking and home economics. Some of those things might be very important in the future. We're looking at a different world, quite possibly. And besides, those type of things help keep children grounded. The biggest thing about community is the children, because that's our future. And most of us have children or grandchildren. I have both. And I care very much about the community for their future and the way government runs. I didn't ever expect to come into government as a younger person, but I think just simply by me being here is an opportunity for others to see they could as well.
Okay. Well, again, staying on the budget, what is your thought as far as the town's long-term finances? Are you confident in how the town is going to do long-term in regards to the monies and the tax rolls and what the town is able to receive from the state?
Well, it's a little hard. We're now collecting the 2.5%, but prior when we weren't, we're trying to kind of catch up. And how you usually catch up, or at least me in my household, is I cut back on other things. I was glad they passed the school budget and allowed, for the services that are happening. But we really need to look into more things like grants. I know that We don't have a grant writer anymore. I really wish that we would look into more grant opportunities and just things that we could save. You may or may not know that I had a man's home rebuilt in the name of Jesus in this house. It didn't cost me a dime. Now, it did take 4 years, but I looked into alternate resources, and I had unions help. Even they came from Rhode Island. So I think if we could get a conversation started, there might be residents that own a business of this sort or that sort that come forward and can help with some costs, but the overall costs, to run a town are huge. But I'm very confident in our finance committee. They're a wonderful group of people.
Let's talk again, and talking about the finances. For the past several years, there's been a lot of conversations about a strategic plan, a capital plan. What's your understanding as to what the town has currently for a strategic plan and a plan for capital projects like the DPW, like the Whitman Middle School?
Well, the thing is that if we put the money in the stabilization fund, we might have been better off. Our bond rating has gone down, and we're in kind of turbulent times. So, we can't run a town on a lick and a prayer, but we really might need to start praying because there are going to be some hard times, and there are decisions that people don't seem to want to make. When my husband went disabled in 2005, I had a choice. I could live the way I used to, or I could lose my home. You have to make tough choices. I don't have a very big funded department. My budget is $5,000 a year. We're looking at much bigger budgets, and we need the teachers, we need the fire department, and we're very lucky. All of our firemen are paramedics. These are reasons that people move to the town and come to the town, which then spend money, taxes and all of that. We certainly seem to be building enough that there should be some income from that. I know Whitman has substantially grown over the past few years.
Okay. The DPW project seems to be that project that keeps being delayed. There's been several attempts. Do you feel that it is still a top project that needs to be done? And is it something that the town is willing to spend those monies to invest in a new DPW, either a new building, a facility, whatever it may be?
Well, we've already spent, over $3 million on feasibility studies, so I certainly hope that something is done. The men work very, very hard for our town, and if you think about the workings of a town, they're like the unsung heroes, much like animal control. You could actually very much compare the two. But they need a facility, obviously. I wasn't in the planning part of what they need, but clearly the first building is very old, unsafe. I have the same feelings about my own department, so I understand. Sadly, I don't know which route the town will go, and I don't have a vibe on what the people would want, but I know they're afraid of their taxes going up. And that's why it's a shame we didn't do things differently down the road. I don't feel the DPW should have waited this long to be fixed in the first place. And sometimes you're faced with a building that is so decrepit that you cannot just fix it.
Okay. So what's your understanding of where things stand with the middle school at this particular time? And do you feel that this project could be something that could hinder building a new DPW building?
Well, I feel that the way things are presented to the town is why we're in the issues we are. And that's why I'm running for selectman. Because I think that if people understood more of the the things that we don't really talk about, they might be more on board because people want to know where their money is going. They want to understand. They don't understand that the state will pay for half of the school. They don't even know what the actual cost of the school is. They don't even know the actual cost of the DPW project. These things are not acceptable to me. If I'm going to go and buy a car, I know what price I'm looking at. I know what accessories I want. I feel that the school would be a green building, just like the police department, maybe even more so because it's so much more current. These things are cost savers. There's also things like we could do if we got the pre-K in with the Conley, because then it would go, to the middle school. Then we would also get more children. They're not considered half day, they'd be full day, so there'd be one student as opposed to a half. This opens up an avenue for much more money, lots of money. Not, won't take away all of our pain, but certainly things that they're not discussed and people just don't understand. And I think that people really want to support their town services. I've never heard anybody talk ill of the police, the fire, the DPW, and certainly not of animal control. But they don't understand the inner workings. But when I wanted to get a new shelter, because our shelter is as old as the DPW, I don't have a union person, so I went to the proper people and I got doctors to come from New York to write a study that, are you aware of the Quincy facility that was built? And I want to say it was about $7 million. Those were the same two doctors that did that came to our shelter. And I didn't want it to be any cost to the town, which it would not have been at the time with these grants. And that's what I'm talking about, getting more involved in. It went on deaf ears, sadly, and I apologize, but me as not just a town worker, but me as a taxpayer and a resident and one that wants to live here forever, that saddens me. Because I had an opportunity to I don't want a $7 million shelter, nor do we need one. But people don't understand that animals also bring in people to the community. I had an idea once, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't come to fruition, that's fine. But we could have had the Park Ave School. I've heard many things. One of my friends wanted to do a thing with the hearing and the blind, and that's educational. I suggested a canine police facility because we don't have one around, and that would bring people in from the trains from all communities. We could have had the shelter there, and heck, we could have had the museum for Whitman there as well. I could have even had a dog park, thrown it all in at my old elementary school instead of an abandoned building. But I understand there are technicalities, but the biggest one I understood was it was educational purposes. So even though I am not high on the chain, I'm always trying to think of things that can better the town, bring in the community together more, and bring in outsiders and make this their community, because Whitman is a wonderful, look at the park. And just for that, speaking of the park, the DPW is the one that takes care of it. So we really should have them working in a safe environment. If I myself want to work in a safe environment, I suspect they want to as well.
Okay.
They should.
Do you feel that the town does enough to support local businesses? And how can the Board of Selectmen be active in assisting the town's business and community?
I think that our town is very unique and does support business. Our tax rates are great for business. Sadly, COVID has hurt a lot of business. So we really need to bring back, and we do a good job of it. I don't feel that any businesses are empty due to our leaders. I think that it's tough times. And like tough people, we need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just keep on going.
Okay. What's your understanding of the marijuana industry that is here in the community, whether it's grow, recreational, retail? Do you feel that it's a good source of revenue? And if there was a way to increase licenses for retail, and my understanding is that it's like liquor licenses, you have a limitation. But if there was a way to expand that, would you be willing?
I have no issues with the medical marijuana taxes and all of that. It's the sad thing to me is that just like everything else, it becomes an argument, and people are unwilling to listen. I suggest to everybody to go to a medical facility. It's not what you think. If you sat outside of a medical facility, you're going to see people that look like your grandmother, your grandfather, a veteran, a war veteran. You're not going to see people that is like what was that show, like the Weed Mania way back in the day? It has a lot of medicinal purposes. I don't know if people want to Google, but Dr. Gupta many years ago did a special on children with seizures. It's unbelievable what this product can do for people. And then the revenue. I mean, my goodness gracious, we live in what's our town, like 3 by 3 miles. All you do is go to the next town over on any side of you and you can go purchase it. So I don't find an issue with it at all. I think it's something that we should embrace and look into any legal alternatives to bring in money. And that certainly is a legal one in Massachusetts at this time.
Okay. How do you feel about municipal meetings being recorded, whether it's just audio, whether it's a video and audio component, and being provided for residents to see what's going on with the municipality?
I can't imagine you'd even ask me the question, because to me it's obvious. It must be, because there are so many people that are handicapped, and I realize we're handicapped accessible, I'm not trying to say that, but that they cannot leave their home. And then since COVID, my goodness, people sometimes are afraid, or they have immune deficiencies. I think it's vital. I think it's vital. I'm not able to get to a lot of meetings because Joe and I, we're 365 days a year, 24/7, and we do not have a day off or a vacation. We bounce off each other to create those. It would be hard for me to attend all the meetings, and I watch your videos all the time. And it's how I learn. It's how I learn what's going on and what's going to affect my taxes or my daughter at school and such. Okay. So I think it's very important. Okay. I would never want to see that go away.
How important is the drug and opioid epidemic to the selectmen's race?
The drug and opioid epidemic is awful. I don't know about to the selectmen's race per se, but it's just awful. I don't even know when it started. I mean, it really didn't start yesterday, last week, 5 years ago. It started when somebody got hurt in a sport or, walking their dog and tripped, and then the doctor prescribed you something, and next thing you're addicted. I think it's very sad. I think there are a lot of holes in the system. For one, if you get arrested and you're in jail, they don't monitor your levels, and if you are an addict, you get out in 14 days, say, and then you go and you just do your addiction. I don't judge people. There's one only person that's a judge, and that won't be me. And then you can die, and this happens often, and people are losing loved ones, and this is just very sad. That's why community from the base is important. I did high-risk care for 7 years. You cannot reach a child after 11 years old. We need to get the children young. We need to give them confidence. Confidence is the biggest thing you can give a person, and enable them. And this is why it's very important to me to have everybody's voice heard. I love our town, and I respect every one of our elected and not elected, say hired officials. I respect everybody. I'm one of those strange people that hold no judgment of anybody. But we need to come together. It's the only way to build a strong community. And that has been proven time and time again.
Okay. If you are elected on May 20th, what would you like to accomplish during your 3-year term?
well, what I would accomplish, because it's not, anytime I set my mind out to do something, I do it. Now, the vote is up to the people, because thank God
Sure.
we live in a free country.
But let's say you
But
get elected.
if I got elected, I would absolutely bring more diversity to our town meetings. I would bring more people in. I want to hear from the young people. The young people in this town get a bad rap. I am constantly hearing about the teenagers and how we don't have this or we don't have that. I did high-risk care for teenagers for 7 years, and people need to understand everybody is worthy and everybody is lost until they find worth. And I would bring people in to show them, this is town hall, this is a role you could do. I'd love to see more community support. We have people all the time, like I said, how do you think I found those people to rebuild his house? I asked, and people were very giving of their time. I'm sure there are people that would volunteer to do all kinds of things around this town, but they haven't been asked. They haven't been invited. I want to invite people to the table. I think that different perspectives is the most important thing that we can bring to any table.
Is there a question or topic that I haven't put forth to you, but you want to take a moment to talk about, or maybe there's something we talked about and you might want to just kind of reiterate or at least give additional information on?
Well, I think you covered the hard questions, right? Because nobody wants to be in the hot seat, and it's a tough thing. We live in a very strange world, and that's the problem. We live in such a volatile world. Where can we find oneness? Here in Whitman. Whitman is a wonderful community that's been divided for too long. People don't feel heard. It's not me as a candidate saying this. It's me as the person that helps people every day. Sadly, people get caught up on sides. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm this, I'm that. We're all human beings. The culture has to become humanity. And the core end of the day, people want to be heard. They want to be appreciated. It's very hard to love a community as much as I do and to be overlooked and unheard for 6 years. For 6 years, I've been asking for the very same things. I wouldn't feel comfortable with myself as a mother, as a grandmother, and as someone that is proud to call myself a townie, if I did not stand up and want to run for selectmen to change that. A lot of people's ideas are you can't change anything, and to move or to whatever, or give up. That's never been in my vocabulary, and I feel that we have so many residents that can offer as much as me or way more than me. And that's what I intend to do. And if given the opportunity, I will do.
Folks want to find out more about you, your campaign, or just reach out and ask you a question. How can they do that?
Well, they could just stop by my house anytime they like. They pretty much do anytime. Pretty much people stop by my house my whole life. I've been doing animal control since I was probably 14 years old, and helping Bob Hammond, God rest his soul. I have a page on Facebook for selectmen, and they could reach out to me at my phone number is easy enough, 508-933-6742. Again, that's 508-933-6742, and they could certainly text. I am doing a meet and greet at the Jenkins Block. God bless, I'm so thrilled. It's at the OCB. It's like a brewery. I don't drink, but it's right in the Jenkins Block, and it's a very good venue. I'm doing it on Mother's Day because the reason I'm running is because I'm a mother, and many of these issues have affected my children. And it's going to be for 6 hours, not 3. So on Mother's Day, if they want to come down, there'll be tons of free food and refreshments, but the beer itself you'd have to buy from the establishment. I don't have that big of a pocketbook. And I'm not taking any donations. I just want to make that clear. I funded this entire campaign myself. I'm a Jenkins by blood, and that's what we do.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
I thank you for having me.
You got it. And I want to thank you for tuning into a program like this, Conversations with the Candidates, as we do our best to educate you about where the candidates stand on the issues. Until our next one, have a great day.